What's up, y'all? Talon here, and today I'm excited to be sharing another series of rank battles featuring high-level teams. This time we have the top-ranking Sand team from last season's Battle Stadium rankings. It was created by a player named Shusuke, who got 6th and 10th on the ladder on 2 different carts with this team, so it's definitely really strong on the ladder, and it's really the only example I've seen of Lycanroc having a high finish. Just consistently getting to top 10 on 2 carts just proves potentially that there's something there, at least for the Lycanroc, and it has some interesting partners. It's Lycanroc, Tyranitar, Dondozo, and Tatsugiri as the main 4 of the team. So being able to do lots of damage early game with Lycanroc and Tyranitar to basically chip away for a late game Dondozo. If you're interested in trying the team for yourself, I have the rental code in the top right as well as in the description below, along with a Pokepaste, all the EV spreads. I also have Shusuke's Twitter linked, along with basically a construction article of how they created the team and what are some of the matchups that it excels in, how to approach those matchups, and most notably some of the matchups that it does struggle into. Just a quick note, if you enjoy the videos as well as the teams, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like, it goes a long way, and let's get into the details of the team now. So to start off, we have a non-standard Dondozo here. Instead of Unaware, we're running Oblivious. Instead of Leftovers, we're running Figgy Berry, and the Terra type is Ghost to be avoiding fake outs and just generally have strong stab move and Terra Blast. There's not a lot in the metagame that resists the Terra Blast other than Dark types, and even those aren't really tanking them so well. It's really just Qianpao and Chi-Yu at this point, which aren't especially bulky on the physical side. Dondozo also has Rock Slide, which I think is really notable. Being able to just immediately switch out into Tatsugiri and threaten Tornadus with Rock Slide on lead is something I found myself doing pretty often, and I think it's just a generally very strong option. Also, if you have speed superiority on the field with your Dondozo, being able to get +2 Rock Slides off of that massive attack stat, you can intimidate it, and then also having the chance to flinch a Pokemon is just really massive. Its partner here is going to be Tatsugiri. I feel like we typically see Muddy Water on the Choice Scarf Tatsugiris, but instead we have Hydro Pump here along with a Terra Water, so potentially late game you can just go for an incredibly strong Hydro Pump. If you're able to hit that, you can do crazy damage. I do want to shout out that it does have Icy Wind on this Tatsugiri as well, which when paired with this max speed Adamant Tyranitar with Choice Band, you can go for Icy Wind and Assurance and basically knock out anything that doesn't resist that hit, so that's a pretty cool option as well. So we went out of order. I feel like the Dondozo and Tatsugiri duo had to be explained together, and now we're going into the Lycanroc Tyranitar. So the Lycanroc is Terra Ghost just to be able to avoid any fake outs or fighting moves. Typically, if you're lost on what to do, Rock Slide is usually a pretty good idea, but you also have Stab, or you also have a really strong single target attack in close combat, which can deal consistent damage. Endeavor, if you get knocked down to Focus Sash, can be really cool because if your opponent doesn't have a priority move, you just Endeavor a slot and usually Sand will knock them out the next turn, so you can trade really favorably with your Lycanroc and basically force double ups. You do of course have to be careful of the Surging Strikes Urshifu in the metagame. Of course, being able to knock you out through Focus Sash is really problematic for this Lycanroc, but generally you're just going to try and avoid leading Lycanroc if you see that Pokemon, or go for a Bulldoze combination with your Tyranitar. Speaking of, the Tyranitar is max speed, as I mentioned with the Tatsugiri, to be able to outspeed a max speed Jolly Urshifu, and I think also Chi-Yu as well, it outspeeds that if it's at -1. So generally the combination you're going to go for is either Rock Slide or Bulldoze to really power up an Assurance, or Bulldoze to lower an Urshifu's speed and just knock it out immediately with a Choice Banded Terra Flying Terra Blast. This combination can really do monstrous damage if your opponent doesn't lead correctly, and although it is really weak to Intimidate and Iron Hands, I'd say to an extent, having the Dondozo mode to alternate to on lead to kind of put the pressure on is also very cool, just because you can force a Terra out of the Iron Hands or just completely ignore the Intimidate on Dondozos with the Dondozo because of Oblivious, and I think that's just overall really good synergy. Heatran is the next Pokemon, and I think it's mainly there to trade favorably with Trick Room teams as well as Urshifu if you commit the Terra Grass, just knocking that out. So you definitely have to preserve your Heatran very well to be handling Urshifus. Sylveon, in a similar vein, is Terra Water Hyper Voice, so basically just being able to bait a Surging Strikes into the Sylveon and go for Terra Water Hyper Voice, and if they do use their Terra Water to survive that, that's usually okay, because at that point you can just knock it out with an Earthquake with Dondozo in the late game. So some common game plans for the team are usually Lycanroc Tyranitar on lead with Dondozo Tatsugiri in the back. Heatran Sylveon aren't so well positioned if you have to use your Terra on the Tyranitar, so generally it's good to just have the chip damage from Rock Slide or Bulldoze Assurance going on early game and then cleaning up with Dondozo in the back. If you think Dondozo is poised to do really well in the early game, you can lead Dondozo plus Heatran or Sylveon, and if they lead unfavorably into Dozo, you can just switch right away into Tatsugiri. Or if they lead favorably into Dozo, oftentimes they are a little weaker to Heatran or Sylveon, so you can switch out the Dondozo if you need to and just go for a spread attack and soften them up for Dondozo to clean up later in the game. Just to note some of the Pokemon that give this team trouble, I was looking at the construction article that Shusuke posted, and he said that against Dolphin Man, I can't win. So yeah, I am kind of working off of Google Translate here, but that does kind of tell me that Haze Palafin is a bit of an issue, which makes a lot of sense. Just being able to sit on the Dondozo, there's no ability to go for a Terra Grass. Terra Blast to just knock that out. Yeah, it's really just a Heatran with Terra Blast that can do anything meaningful against Palafin, so that's something to watch out for, but because it's so uncommon, that's not such an issue. More significant, it seemed like Regidrago, as that usage has started to pick up, can be really tricky. Personally, I found the Urshifus against opposing teams really problematic. I had to play pretty carefully and focus that down early, as well as Iron Hands in a similar vein, just being able to heal up against Tyranitar and Lycanroc, really pesky. And if you're not able to lead Sylveon into it, if they're faster with Heavy Slam, for example, that can be really annoying. And yeah, typically Iron Hands, just fighting types in general, can be difficult to switch into for the team. Overall, I'm excited to showcase this Sand Lycanroc plus Choice Band Tyranitar combination. It really worked for Shusuke, getting 6th and 10th on the ladder last season, as I mentioned. And yeah, let's get into the battles. Alright, and we're playing against a frat brother here. What is that? Omega Chi Epsilon or something? That's crazy. Never seen that in a Pokemon username before, but it is Dragonite, Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, the Maushold, Rillaboom, and the Magnezone. So a really interesting team from a really interesting fellow, I'm sure. I think Lycanroc's really actually quite good here against everything on their team, as is Tyranitar. This is definitely going to be the sand game for us, and Heatran's good. Heatran's for sure good against most of their Pokemon, but I am a little worried about Chien-Pao potentially. I think Sylveon, not the game for it, so I'm kind of deciding between the Heatran mode or the Dondozo mode, and solo Heatran isn't that good for me. But it can at least switch, it can at least provide some value against the Magnezone on switch in. I think I'll go Dondozo though. The boosts seem like they'll be really nice, and I'm not sure they have a lot of tools to deal with the Terra Ghost. If they lose their Chien-Pao early, and Breaking Focus Sash with Sandstorm on the Tyranitar is just really valuable for that as well, because I can Rock Slide the Chien-Pao later on the game with the Dondozo, and they might not be expecting that. And with the Focus Sash broken, then we take that knockout, and we can safely go for Terra Ghost and go for our really strong stab Terra Blast from there. Okay, and it is Magnezone plus Maushold, which is kind of odd, but whatever, we'll take it. I'm sure they're not expecting Bulldoze here. So, yeah, I'm just going to go for Bulldoze plus Assurance, I think. Should I do that? Do I have to do that? Probably not. But I'm not too worried about the Maushold, honestly. They might protect the Maushold too. So we're going straight for the Terra. And unless they're a slow Magnezone, which I feel like it's probably naturally slower than Tyranitar, pretty close to its speed tier, so this might just be the normal operation of the Terra turns, but if they don't go for a Terra and they take a Bulldoze, they're going to be taking a lot of unexpected damage. Yep. Come on, 95 accuracy, let's hit. Very nice. Okay, and with Assurance, it's definitely going to knock that out. So we'll see what... The Maushold did not protect there. That's interesting. So easy peasy knockout on the Magnezone. What do you have, Thunder Wave? Super Fang, okay. So that's annoying for sure. I could have probably just knocked out the Maushold instead of the Magnezone, but we fear what we do not know, and so the Magnezone left the field as early as I could get it off. And Fluttermane, okay, fair enough. So I think I'll go for Bulldoze again, actually. And I have to go for Assurance. Yeah, I think Bulldoze knocks them into range of Dondozo. And that's good for me. So I'll go after the Mouse Hold on the off chance they don't protect. But the speed control on the Lycanroc is kind of surprisingly good here. And with the special defense boost from Sandstorm on the Lycanroc, I'd be kind of surprised if they're able to knock me to Focus Sash, for Super Fang to knock me out on the Tyranitar. They go for Feint though. Kind of glitched out the screen. But yeah, there's the Bulldoze. If they're a slower Flutter Mane, we'll actually outspeed with the Tyranitar because we're max speed, but I kind of doubt it. And oh, we do. Okay, that's really nice. So that actually confirms they're a slower, bulkier Flutter Mane, so that Bulldoze damage and Sandstorm is going to be non-trivial, and letting our Wave Crash or our Earthquake knock it out. So there's Dazzling Gleam. It crits on the Tyranitar without the Sandstorm boost. It's not Assault Vest Tyranitar. I don't think that mattered. In fact, I'd be extremely surprised if they couldn't have taken that knockout, but now they need priority to knock out my Lycanroc, and we're threatening a really strong Endeavor into whoever they bring on the field, and a Wave Crash. I mean, we just switch out, truthfully. Like, we're probably not even going to have to take a risk this turn. Rillaboom with Fake Out is probably worst case, but yeah, the Bulldoze tech, just the first time we were able to use it, the first time we got Tyranitar and Lycanroc on the field, and just immediately going for that really cool option, and we might be able to show off the Endeavor option here too. Alright, there is Rillaboom. That's kind of worst case, I'd say. Is it? Is that worst case? Because if they Fake Out Lycanroc, I knock out their... I don't think I should give up my Lycanroc though. I think I just straight up switch. There's no reason to take a risk here. I think I just go right after the Flutter Mane here. Take the 100% knockout. Unless they, and if they crit me, so be it. Okay, yeah, they cancel the battle. But preserving Lycanroc, the idea is essentially because Rillaboom is only a single attacker, unless they crit Dazzling Gleam, which should knock me out anyways, I always knock out the Flutter Mane in either that turn or the next turn. And then I'll always have a Pokemon next to Lycanroc to go for, if Sand's still up, which I think it might end in a lot of situations, but regardless, I always get Endeavor plus attack on the partner, or I get the partner just always being Tatsugiri, actually. I always get a Endeavor plus Close Combat if they target the partner on that turn, or Endeavor plus, I guess, 2 Icy Winds on Tatsugiri, so... Alright, against number 129 on the ladder, they have Tornadus, Heatran, Flutter Mane, Basculegion, Landorus T, and Amoonguss. So, I think on this team, what we generally see is it being Rain Dance Torn, which really lessens the effectiveness of the, and like adaptability on the Basculegion, I think. Just being able to take near knockouts even on resist, so we have to be careful about just assuming our Water Terras will carry us through. I don't think it will in this instance. So what are we going to do about that? I think Dondozo late game is going to be really nice for us. The question is, how do we get to that point? Sylveon could be pressuring really good damage, I think. I want to knock out the Tornadus as fast as possible. And then, I don't think Heatran is right, but it could be. I feel like they're going to lead Landorus. Honestly. Like, Landorus Tornadus feels like a good lead for them. So what do I do about that? I think I lead with these two still and just go with Dondozo in the back. Like I think the Basculegion is just so threatening to this team, I have to be careful about it. And Amoonguss, I could definitely see being problematic, but we'll just have to answer that as it comes. The issue is the Dondozo, like, I don't have a ton. I'm just kind of spamming spread moves against and hoping Amoonguss comes in, which is not so favorable of a game plan, but on this team, they can just set up Rain and handle my Heatran pretty well, so it's a well-built team in that respect, and if they just lead Tornadus and get Rain Dance up early in the game, I wouldn't be able to deal too much. Yeah, so there's Landorus on lead, and Sylveon. Okay. So I could maybe get a double knockout this turn. Like Choice Band, they could probably knock out Sylveon, unfortunately. I think I'll go for Hyper Voice and Rock Slide. And we'll see, like, maybe Terra Blast knocks out my Lando. Sunny Day. Sunny Day. U-turn. That's quite interesting. Why did they go for Sunny Day? I guess no Basculegion mode, so Heatran would have been phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, Heatran I still have to go for Terra. Okay, Amoonguss, fair enough. That's what I was trying to damage. We do a ton of damage, and yeah, we knock out that pretty easily. So they don't get speed control, which I'm super happy with. Dondozo now should have speed superiority over everything but maybe Choice Scarf Lando, and I guess Flutter Mane. But Flutter Mane's pretty primed to do a lot of damage now. So definitely have to be wary about that, but we have the Amoonguss chip down, so I'm not too worried, honestly. We're going to get a Rock Slide or a Hyper Voice off with either this turn. Like, I don't think Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam knocks us out, and there's no reason to risk any of the Pokemon in the back. Especially when, if they're not a Figgy Berry, the double target will knock out the Amoonguss, so I think they kind of misplayed their Amoonguss here, but they don't know what I have in back. Like, if they think I have Heatran, then they'd be cooked, pretty much, outside of making a correct call on their Landorus. Although the combination of Stopping Tantrum plus a Fairy move would knock out my Heatran. There's the Gleam, so easy peasy knockout onto my Sylveon. We can get tricky later in the game, though. Yeah, we get the Hyper Voice off, which means they're both in range of Earthquake, and they go for Spore. So they might... So if we switch out Sylveon, we'll essentially have the Sylveon back without any of that nonsense, but... The concern now is, what is this Flutter Mane rockin'? So Terra Flying would be a little annoying on Amoonguss, but I've never seen that, and I really doubt it. Okay, let me make sure I'm switching the right Pokemon here. Into Tatsugiri. This feels like a pretty safe Earthquake, genuinely. Like, I could risk Rock Slide, but I'm not as certain that that will knock out the Flutter Mane. Whereas Earthquake, it might get pretty close, honestly. So I think I like that. And I don't really want to risk Rage Powder. I do think +1 Earthquake will knock out their Flutter Mane. I'm an adamant Max Attack Dondozo. Or maybe, yeah, Max Attack. So the Earthquake will at +1. Flutter Mane's not that bulky. On a team like this, if they are EV'd bulkily, then yeah, they probably do have a chance to live, but I'd be surprised if this is anything less than a favorable roll for me. They're probably going to need to be Quick Claw on Amoonguss to Spore me and get out of this situation, especially because, okay, they do switch, so we're going to see the Intimidate attempt. And yeah. Yep. Oh, we are oblivious. That's so hype. I thought we were unaware. Yeah, in the rental team, or so I picked up the rental team, and I see a Pokepaste of this on the VGC Paste Phalanx Team Builder site, and it is unaware on that, but yeah, I was not aware this was unaware. I definitely would have, or I was assuming this was unaware and not oblivious, and that definitely changes how I played some of the games I was doing in practice. It just never came up because I kind of wasn't bringing it against Intimidate Pokemon. So yeah, that's really nice, and at this point, should be pretty good to just go for Terra Ghost into the Amoonguss, and they probably have to crit me to win this, or be Terra Normal Amoonguss. But Landorus is moving first, so that kind of takes the possibility out of that, and this Terra Flying going for their strongest move here, which should win us the game against the Amoonguss. We will see if they're... oh, they are Choice Scarf. If they get a critical hit Terra Blast here, they could win. Or if it 2-hit KOs me. But yeah, the Sunny Day is now kind of important because we can't just Wave Crash swat them. But thankfully we have that secondary stab. Okay. They're making the plays they need. Definitely making the plays they need. So if Terra Blast 2-hit KOs me, or crits at any point, we will lose. It's not a knockout. How fast? We're a timid Tatsugiri. But if we fall asleep, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think they probably have to go for double protect into Amoonguss. And if they do that, okay, they don't, fair enough. I thought about going for Rock Slide there, which maybe knocks out their Lando. Probably not, but I think short of a crit, we should still win this game, and then going for Rage Powder actually probably tips it in my favor a fair bit too. And they don't, and we actually don't activate the Figgy Berry, so we have just a hair too low HP, and Terra Blast should knock out the Amoonguss. Very nice, and now with our Tatsugiri on our Sleep Talk Sylveon in the back, I think we have this one wrapped. Yeah, Sun fades away, and I'm just going to go straight for a Wave Crash, get our guaranteed damage off, and they might knock us out. I don't think they do. Yep, we're finally going to get that Figgy Berry off. I should probably go for Terra Blast here, but given we have two Pokemon, which probably just close this out, I do feel fine about this. Oh, that's a straight up knockout. Heck yeah, Dondozo. Good for you. Eating his Wheaties, so yeah, just incredible neutral damage. If you're not a Pokemon that's EV'd in your defense stats, the Wave Crash is usually going to knock you out, even if you have good natural bulk, like Landorus does. So yeah, I think they definitely made a mistake in how they played their Amoonguss. They might have expected my Dondozo to have some better tools for Amoonguss, but in this case, not so. Or maybe expected Heatran to be in the backs, or... yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think maybe they were just really scared about Dondozo's Wave Crash, and that ended up not being my stab move of choice, and them just basically forfeiting their Amoonguss on turn 3 was a big deal for us. Alright, next one. It's against what looks like a Regulation C team with Amoonguss, Iron Hands, Gyarados, Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, and Chi-Yu. So a team like this actually did really well at Worlds, but the Chien-Pao slot kept being like switched around. I think Wolf had a Sap Sipper Farigiraf. A lot of people had a Roaring Moon team, or a Roaring Moon on that slot, but regardless, I think Iron Hands, as always, is kind of annoying for this team to play against. So for that reason, I might go Fluttermane on lead, but I usually do just get swatted if I do that. It's kind of obvious, so... Heatran is pretty good as a lead, I think, against most of the Pokemon on the team. Tyranitar could threaten... it doesn't really threaten the Chien-Pao, unfortunately. The Amoonguss is definitely annoying for me. Tatsugiri Icy Wind could be fun. I think I want to break the Chien-Pao's Focus Sash. That's going to be my priority this game. And I'll lead Heatran, and I'll bring Sylveon in the back just to have a little bit of bulk. But generally, these teams are a little weak to Dondozo, but only if you have a Terra type that lets you beat Amoonguss, like Terra Flying to straight up knock it out with a surprise KO, or a Terra Grass to just completely avoid the Spores and Rage Powders. But that obviously loses to Clear Smog. But most teams aren't running that lately. So yeah, Iron Hands Amoonguss right off the bat, so Heatran would have been strong, like I said, but unfortunately not what we went for, and could spell trouble based off that. Okay, I'm going to go Sylveon here, and... this could be pretty annoying. I'm going to go Sylveon. I really want to switch in Sylveon, so I'm going to go Rock Slide on this slide. this side, roll for some flinches, and then switch into Sylveon because it takes Drain Punch and Spore pretty well. But as we saw before, Heavy Slam is kind of a concern for Sylveon. And it's not like we can tear away, because if they don't have it, they're going for Wild Charge anyways. But okay, there's the Fake Out into Sylveon. Does a lot of damage. And we Rock Slide, and it's going to miss the Iron Hands. But ton of damage on Amoonguss, so. They do get a Spore off, and it's into the Lycanroc, which I think I'm okay with. Yeah, so we'll do a little bit of Chip. And we see that Sylveon outspeeds the Iron Hands, which more or less forces a Switch or a Terra on that slot, which I'm super down with. Yeah, they will be able to Spore my Sylveon, unfortunately, and heal a bunch of damage this turn. So a little tricky. I guess if they do go for that, then I'm in fine shape on some level. I think the damage in the Iron Hands could be good, and wasting the Terra is nice, like because it'll remove their resistance to... Yeah, what is it? Terra Water? Terra Grass, that's way better. So now we have a lot of Heat Waves later in the game that are going to do a ton of damage. They're going to put asleep our Sylveon here, unfortunately. Oh, Pollen Puff is going to be annoying. The damage is kind of just going to get flipped back. But good damage on Amoonguss. And it is Heavy Slam. I think that's way better for us than them targeting Lycanroc, because we'll be able to wake up at some point and go for really strong moves. So Pollen Puff into Lycanroc. Yeah, now you're in Heat Wave range, buddy. That was definitely... I think they could have come out of that turn, like... They could have come out with that a full Iron Hands, but instead they come out of it a Iron Hands that's now in Heat Wave range. And if I want to play this conservatively, I don't think I want to though. Heat Wave will definitely knock out Iron Hands in my opinion. So I think we just go for Rock Slide. We lose the game straight up if we Terra, I think, because we'll lose to Ice Spinner. Whereas if we don't, we still have a chance to make a read. So I'm just going to go for a Heat Wave Rock Slide. Hope. I mean, now we can't get Spored because they switched out, but we're definitely in danger of Heat Wave missing the knockout on the Iron Hands or missing Heat Wave. We do wake up and get a Rock Slide, so that's a bit of insurance. Just kidding. Okay, so that Rock Slide would have been pretty nice damage, but now we're going to knock out with Heat Wave if we hit, which we do. Yeah, Rock Slide would have put Gyarados in knockout range later. Oh, you know what? We'll take it. I take it back. We will definitely take that turn. Whew. Alright. So that's the thing about these balanced teams. Like, if you can force out the Terra, suddenly they're weak to one of the Pokemon on the team they would have been strong against before. And now with speed control on the board, not speed control, but with consistent spread move damage on the board, them switching around doesn't accomplish a lot. Like, they have to go into Amoonguss now, which is like really kind of bad for them. Because I can just go for Rock Slide, Heat Wave fairly safely. And if I double hit, I should be okay. They could paralyze me, which I don't think that matters with Tyranitar in the back. Like, the Gyarados being burned here is nice because I'll live a Waterfall, and we're not even going to see them go for it anyways. They could have gone for Thunder Wave, but yeah, just a double knockout. So putting Sylveon on the board as early as we could get it after not leading it was really nice for us, because if they wanted to... I mean, they could have survived the turn with the Assault Vest and Pollen Puffed up, which I think was probably better for them, but it's just really tempting to not take the damage at all there. But it looked like it ended up being quite a poor trade for them in this situation. But now we just got to close this out. So we're faster than the Chien Pao, and I think we just go for our single type attacks, or single target attacks. And they Sucker Punch, which is interesting. Oh, it's Life Orb. Okay, yeah, then they never win. Because we always have Low Kick and Heat Wave and Close Combat, each of which knocks them out. And I just went for Earth Power to minimize the impact of accuracy losing us that game. So yeah, solid one. The Sylveon proving its worth in that battle. Just even though it didn't do that much damage, it was a potential Sleep Talk switch in for Spore, as well as a Drain Punch switch in, which this team doesn't have a lot of. Iron Hands is definitely really pesky for this team, so forcing the Terra into the Grass Terra was just really nice for Heatran in the back. Alright, and now we have a pretty standard Tailwind team with Urshifu, Rillaboom, Heatran, Tornadus, Fluttermane, and Landorus T. So, I think Oblivious Dondozo, now that we know it has that, is really strong into the Tornadus lead. We can kind of just Wave Crash that if we want to. I don't want to be chipping away at myself with the Sandstorm chip because we're not leftovers. I think generally forcing Terras out of the Urshifu turn 1 is really nice. I'm going to lead Sylveon. I like Fluttermane, or I like Tatsugiri, just obviously for Dondozo, and as my last, I think if we have preserved our Terra, Heatran's in a good spot, so... And everything else loses to the Urshifu anyways, so yeah, I'll go Heatran. Just because it gives me a bit of maneuverability against Tailwind with Protect, and all the other Pokemon on my team are hosed against Urshifu anyways if we can't go for a Terra, so that kind of excludes that consideration. But against these Tailwind teams, the lead's always very important. But Oblivious Dondozo is definitely such a game changer against any team with Landorus, basically. Okay, and there's Torn Lando, so Oblivious coming in clutch. And I wonder if I want to delay the Tailwind a little bit and go for Wave Crash or Rock Slide. So I'm definitely staying in on Dondozo. I don't think Rock Slide knocks out, but the damage might be good regardless, especially if they go for a Terra on their Lando. Yeah, and they could just switch in Rillaboom, so I think I'll go for that. Just get as much damage on the board as I can, and I am taking a risk here. I could just knock out the Torn immediately, but I think Tornadus, if they're EV'd and HP, have non-negligible bulk. They could live the hit, and even if I do take the knockout, I'm taking a lot of HP from Wave Crash, which, without leftovers, I have to be in pretty specific situations to get the Figgy Berry activated, so definitely don't want to be tempting the damage rolls. They go for Bleak Wind, and they do miss the Tatsugiri, so that's max speed Torn, so Rock Slide might have a chance to knock them out. Ooh, they do lower my speed stat, and they go for Earthquake, so they definitely saw the Sylveon as a threat. We do live, and Rock Slide comes out, and it doesn't knock out Torn. Oof. Focus Sash, fair enough. Is that a big deal? Kind of. I think I probably want to go after the Landorus this turn, though, instead of the Torn. They go for another Bleak Wind, so not going for Tailwind, which I think is kind of a mistake, and they miss the Dondozo and go for another Earthquake. So yep, big damage coming out. Wave Crash, gonna do a lot, maybe puts us in Figgy Berry range, maybe not. We get a big critical hit on our side. Definitely the luck swing in our favor. Probably not, actually. If we don't get Bleak Wind Storm that last turn, we have a chance to Rock Slide flinch them, and we outspeed and knock them out this turn without taking Earthquake, so... Oh, Figgy Berry, 75 HP from that, that's crazy. But they didn't set up Tailwind, which is kind of perplexing. They go to Fluttermane. That's probably a knockout. And no booster energy. Okay. So Torn's no trouble against the Heatran. Who do they likely have in back? They have not set up Tailwind. Sylveon, Heatran. I think if I live the turn, I want to knock out Fluttermane, basically. But they probably need to... Oh, Thunderbolt. Interesting. So I'm totally fine with them locking into that. And they go for another Bleak Wind. Let's see if they are... Yep. They're in the clear here, and now... With them locked into Thunderbolt, though, I'm pretty fine with that. I think that's pretty free Sylveon. Do I need HP on Sylveon? Probably not. I think I maybe prioritize the damage and just go for... could they be specs? Are they specs? Probably. They can't knock out my Tatsugiri this turn no matter what. I think maybe I go Icy Wind. I want to say Flutter Mane switches out to Heatran here if they have it, which could be bad. Icy Wind. I don't want them to get away with not Tailwinding here. Rillaboom. Okay, very good I didn't Hydro Pump that. Icy Wind's going to do good damage, as will Hyper Voice, and this forces them to go for Tailwind, which is cool for me. And they don't go for Tailwind, which is interesting. I wonder if they're like... No, Tornadus doesn't have a secret ability, I don't... No, can you run Defiant? I don't think you can. So yeah, they just never set up Tailwind, inexplicably, and that serves to our advantage here. Sylveon's just a really good Pokemon later in the game when your opponents might not have Urshifu on the field, just because it offers such consistent damage. But Heatran feels very, very strong for me here. They have to lock into probably a Fairy move if they want to beat Tatsugiri. So I think I just go for a bunch of Icy Winds. And with Rillaboom at -1 speed, Sylveon will outspeed, which is really nice. Okay, they go for Terra Fire. Fair enough. Don't think it matters. They should have to go for it. If they don't lock into Shadow Ball here, they pretty much always lose against a Heatran. So there's Dazzle. Fair enough. And Hyper Voice is going to do a ton of damage to Flutter Mane. Yeah, not going for Tailwind was really curious. But yeah, that's a 2-hit KO on Flutter. Rillaboom folds to an Earth Power. I'm fairly sure they never set up Tailwind. And yeah, looking pretty good for us. So yeah, Dondozo was exactly what we needed on lead. We got kind of, I wouldn't say bailed out. I think we still lived the turns we need to. If we are not checking Tailwind and checking the Rillaboom, you are at -1 speed, which means my Heatran should close this out. So they Dazzle again. As I said, they kind of needed to lock in Shadow Ball, but if they did, they lost to the Pokemon I had on the board. But because they're in Dazzling Gleam and we outspeed the Rillaboom, we take that knockout, and now Heatran is just never losing to this Flutter Mane. Yep, and Hyper Voice closes this game out. So nice one, another one where Sylveon kind of proves its worth. Having a Pokemon that's just really bulky and can sit on the field against... I mean, it doesn't love sitting on the field against Landorus or any of these physical attackers, but it can take one more hit than Flutter Mane can do usually in exchange for the speed. So it's definitely a Pokemon that I feel like people have recognized they've underlooked a little bit, and it's starting to pick up a bit of usage later into Regulation D's life. Flutter Mane, Arcanine, Hisuian form, Rillaboom, Chi-Yu, Zapdos, and Urshifu. So Chi-Yu, something that kind of picked up at the World Championships a little bit. Zapdos, not so much. Hisuian Arcanine definitely is on the rise, but yeah, definitely a lot of special attacking damage coming out from them. It's usually Choice Band or Assault Vest on the Arcanine, which is something to be aware of, but if they're Will-O-Wisp, that could be annoying. I'm definitely a little worried about the Zapdos into my Dondozo. Intimidate is, of course, annoying. I might go for the late game Tyranitar, honestly. Okay, so I might go late game Tyranitar. Just because the Urshifu lead's really obvious, I think. Maybe I don't Terra. I think I might be able to get a lot of value out of this, though. Running out of time. Yep, so we're going Dondozo pretty aggressively here. If they lead Urshifu, we might have to commit the Terra immediately to our Sylveon, which could definitely be a problem if they lead Rillaboom Urshifu. Yeah, this team does feel like getting the lead right is very, very important, and if you don't, you're oftentimes on the back foot and have to burn a Terra. At least that's how it felt in the practice games, and that's kind of how it's going right now as well. Where I think I could go up pretty big on turn 1, but I could also go down really badly. Okay, there is Rillaboom Urshifu, so that's kind of going to have to force an immediate Terra Ghost out of my Dondozo, I think. So I'm going to go right for the Terra Blast into their Urshifu and switch into my Sylveon. Just try and take that out as early as possible. Because it's such an issue for the rest of my team. And the Rillaboom, if it can't do super effective damage, isn't going to do that much. It'll definitely do a lot because of grassy terrain, but because of the boost, I'll be able to offset that a little bit, and the healing will definitely be nice. And if we ever get knocked into Figgy Berry range, I'll be big chilling. So the Don goes up to Omni +2, and we'll see if there's any Terras from that. I guess we won't, because we would be the fastest unless they're Choice Scarf Urshifu. But yeah, Terra Ghost for us. I think the Terra Blast will definitely do like at least 70 to the Urshifu, take it out of grassy terrain healing range. Good play from them. Yeah, so really strong from them. That's a solid play. And Woodhammer into the Sylveon slot, so fair enough. Now they have a lot of free Surging Strikes into us though, and that's definitely an issue. Yeah, we absolutely need to get some damage onto the Urshifu, I think. Because they're the one that's going to be threatening big damage with the Surging Strikes. Woodhammer is going to do a lot for sure, but we really need to prioritize this Urshifu, knocking it down. Okay, really close to a knockout. So if there's ever a Chien-Pao on the board, we'll get that knockout. Good to know. So they're doing a 2-hit KO to us. Just shy. But U-turn, fair enough. So we'll heal with Grassy Terrain out of that range. So what's coming next? They can't cycle in Fake Out, which is nice on our Terra Ghost. And now we threaten probably Zapdos. Okay, we're going for Rock Slide then. Because I think they most likely will be EV'd to live this hit. Wave Crash into Zapdos. That's going to be pretty tight, I feel. But if they're just max defense bold, I'd rather have the crit chance, the flinch chance, and we can potentially flinch Urshifu as well. So we are going to see a switch, so big Rock Slide coming out onto anything that comes. It shouldn't be Chien-Pao. Do they even have Chien-Pao on this team? Oh, it's Chi-Yu, okay. You Choice Scarf Zapdos? Okay, we go for Rock Slide, and we miss one of them. And unfortunately, it's the Chi-Yu, so... Oh, we do flinch them, though, so... Turning it right back on its head. Unfortunately, we don't know if they're Choice Scarf or not, which is kind of bad. They haven't burned a Terra yet. I think I'll just go for Rock Slide. Regardless. Feels kind of like my only play. Like, I could read a Terra and maybe Terra Blast the Chi-Yu. But if they're not Choice Scarf, I should be able to have the chance to Rock Slide flinch them anyways, so just maximizing my odds without risking too much. Like, they do have to be Choice Scarf to outspeed me. And it is Terra Grass, which Rock Slide will still probably 2-hit KO. So we do double hit Rock Slide, so that flinch very nice on the Zapdos, and we bring the Chi-Yu down. pretty low. Potential chance to flinch here. And we do get the flinch, so the Rock Slide Dondozo coming in very clutch here. And the cool part, now they offer no ability to go for a Fake Out. So there's Rillaboom, fair enough. I think I'll just go for Terra Blast into the Chi-Yu slot. It's looking pretty good for Tatsugiri. Okay, they did have Protect, so misplay that turn a bit. But they will have to take a Wood Hammer recoil on themselves, which is relevant, and that might knock us into Figgy Berry range. Nope, U-turn, which is kind of interesting. I don't really understand why that's not the Urshifu. Heal a little bit that turn, because I heal with Grassy Terrain anyways. Their Grassy Terrain definitely benefiting my Dondozo more than it benefited them. Like, I was under 50% at one point, and now I'm back up to a little under 3/4. But yep, Grass is off the field, and I feel like it's a pretty safe... It's still pretty safe into the Chi-Yu, I think. Okay, they canceled the battle. Fair enough. Yeah, those two flinches really sealed it for us, but we wouldn't have needed the first one if we knock out the Chi-Yu, I think. Because at that point, yeah, they get Tailwind up, but Chi-Yu's knocked out for sure, and with Figgy Berry, we probably take one more knockout. So definitely like accelerated the pace of the battle, but I think it was still in our favor, even though we kind of led a bit shaky. The Terra Ghost, just the single target damage off of Terra Ghost. Ghost is a really neutral type into a lot of the meta, and when you're hitting at +2 off of a really high base attack stat that Dondozo has, then yeah, it's just a really solid Terra type for that reason. So that will do it for the battles with this team today. We should offer really cool Oblivious, Terra Ghost, Terra Blast, Dondozo. I think the standout move on the set was actually Rock Slide, just because it's really strong against Tailwind teams. If they aren't running a bulky Tornadus, you're able to take a Rock Slide KO. Turn 1, a lot of the times you're able to lead something threatening next to Dondozo on lead, and they're put in a weird position where it's like, yeah, I'm probably going to switch out the partner Pokemon, but if I don't, you take a really strong Rock Slide or Hyper Voice or even Heat Wave. So I think that's one of the strengths of the team. Of course, we have the Lycanroc Tyranitar Rock Slide duo, which I feel like the Rock Slide's option is there if you need to go for it, but you're really more so trying to set up the Bulldoze Assurance combination with a really max speed Tyranitar along with Choice Band Assurance. Does incredible damage, taking knockouts on pretty much anything that doesn't resist it. And the Sylveon and the Heatran kind of just bulky Pokemon to sit on the field and take key spread damage attacks and to go for sneaky Terras against opponents and just take sneaky knockouts that way. Overall, I can see why this team took 2 top 10 slots in ranked ladder last season, and it's got a lot of really cool options on it that can catch your opponents off guard, and I think we showed off a lot of them this session. So if you enjoy the battles, please subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton, and peace, y'all.